Have you ever heard a story so strange, so unsettling that it makes you question everything you think you know about the ocean? This is the story of the Sarah Joe, a small fishing boat that vanished into a storm, only to reappear under circumstances that defy all logic. It's a tale of lost men, a mysterious grave, and a boat that traveled thousands of kilometers against impossible currents. This isn't just a ghost story. It's a real-life maritime mystery that has baffled investigators for decades. It all started on February 11, 1979, in the small town of Hana on the Hawaiian island of Maui. 5 friends, Benjamin Kalua, Scott Mormon, Peter Hanchett, Ralph Maliakini, and Patrick Wosner, decided to head out for a day of fishing. They would experience local watermen, and their boat, the Sarah Joe, was sturdy and reliable. The weather was perfect when they left, but the Pacific is notoriously unpredictable. Within hours, a freak storm, one of the worst in Hawaii's history, descended upon them with terrifying speed. Winds howled at over 100 kilometers per hour, and waves swelled to monstrous heights, some reaching 12 meters, the size of a 4-story building. A massive search and rescue operation was launched immediately. The U.S. Coast Guard, along with dozens of local volunteers in their own boats and planes, scoured over 180,000 square kilometers of ocean. They searched tirelessly for days, then weeks, battling the rough seas left in the storm's wake. But they found nothing. No debris, no life rafts, not a single trace of the Sarah Joe or its 5-man crew. After an exhaustive search, the heartbreaking conclusion was reached. The boat had been swallowed by the sea, and all 5 men were presumed lost. The families grieved, the community mourned, and the story of the Sarah Joe became a tragic local legend, a somber reminder of the ocean's unforgiving power. And for nearly a decade, that's where the story ended. The case was closed, the men were declared legally dead, and life in Hana moved on, though the memory of that day never truly faded. Then, something impossible happened. On September 9, 1988, almost 10 years to the day after the Sarah Joe disappeared, a marine biologist named John Naughton was working on a remote, uninhabited atoll in the Marshall Islands. This atoll, called Taongi, was a desolate speck of land more than 3,500 kilometers away from Hawaii. As Naughton surveyed the coastline, he spotted something half buried in the sand of the lagoon. It was the battered but recognizable hull of a small boat. He got closer and brushed away the sand. There, on the transom, was the registration number, A6855E. He radioed it in. The response that came back sent a shiver down his spine. This was the Sarah Joe. The boat that had vanished without a trace in a Hawaiian storm a decade earlier had reappeared, thousands of kilometers away on a deserted island. But the discovery only deepened the mystery. The boat was completely empty. There were no signs of the crew, no personal belongings, no clue as to what had happened to them. How did it get here? Experts calculated the ocean currents and wind patterns. According to their models, there was no possible way for an unguided boat to drift from Hawaii to Taongi Atoll. It was a navigational impossibility. The currents should have carried it in a completely different direction. Something or someone must have guided it there. The story gets even stranger. As investigators combed the tiny deserted atoll for clues, they found something that turned this from a tragic accident into a chilling enigma. A short distance from where the boat was found, they discovered a makeshift grave. It was a simple pile of coral stones arranged in the shape of a cross. Beneath the stones, they unearthed skeletal remains. Using dental records, the remains were positively identified as Scott Mormon, one of the 5 men from the Sarah Joe. But this discovery raised more questions than it answered. The grave itself was bizarre. On top of the cairn, someone had placed a stack of small, square pieces of paper, interleaved with thin sheets of foil. It was some kind of makeshift notebook, but the pages were blank, washed clean by years of sun and rain. What message was meant to be written there? And who built this grave? If Scott Mormon washed ashore alive, he couldn't have buried himself. This means at least one other person was with him. Who was it? And what happened to them? The most unsettling question of all is this. If Scott Mormon was buried on Taongi Atoll, why was the Sarah Joe found adrift in the lagoon? If he and a companion had made it to the island on the boat, why wasn't the boat secured on the shore? The official theory is that Scott Mormon survived the initial storm, perhaps clinging to the overturned boat, and drifted for weeks or months across the Pacific. By some miracle, he washed ashore on Taongi, where he eventually perished and was found and buried by a passing fisherman, maybe from a Taiwanese vessel, who then left without reporting it. The boat, they say, was then pushed back out to sea by a storm and drifted back into the lagoon later. But that theory is full of holes. Why would a rescuer bury a man in a secret grave and not report it? Why leave the strange blank notebook? And it still doesn't explain how the boat defied the ocean currents to get there in the first place. Other theories are far darker. Some believe the men were rescued by a passing vessel, only to meet a grim fate at the hands of their rescuers. Perhaps they were taken to the island and held captive, or worse. Others whisper of modern-day pirates or smugglers who wanted no witnesses. Could Scott Mormon have been killed and buried by his own shipmates in a desperate fight for survival? The possibilities are as vast and as dark as the ocean itself. To this day, the fate of the other 4 men remains a complete mystery. The ocean keeps its secrets well. The Sarah Joe wasn't supposed to be found. Its reappearance didn't solve a mystery. It created a bigger one. What do you think really happened to the crew of the Sarah Joe? Was it a tragic accident compounded by a series of unbelievable coincidences? Or is there a darker, more sinister explanation for the man in the lonely grave and the boat that sailed against the tides? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. Thanks for watching.